Global tension over the possibility of a third world war is something that has been worrying many nations. Conflicts like those between Israel and Hamas, the war between Russia and Ukraine, along with the growing ideological divide between the West and the East, create a very alarming scenario. However, few predicted that Japan could also play a crucial role in this panorama. Since their defeat in World War II, the country was forced to sign treaties that prevented it from investing in weapons and military forces. This contributed to Japan's peaceful image in recent generations.
However, after forming an alliance with the United States during the Cold War, Japan gradually resumed its investments in defense, although in a limited way. Now, the growing tensions in the Indo-Pacific region, especially the threats from China regarding Taiwan, are putting Japanese security at risk. Taiwan, located near the southeast of Japan, could be a strategic point for a Chinese invasion, which would also facilitate the occupation of other areas in the region, something reminiscent of ancient conflicts between these nations. Additionally, North Korea and Russia have also been involved, albeit indirectly, in these tensions, as have the United States, increasing the risk of a devastating confrontation. With so many major military powers involved, all of which possess nuclear arsenals, the situation becomes increasingly concerning. In this video, we will better explain what is happening and why it represents a significant risk, as well as explore some historical events that help to understand the current context. The rivalry between China and Japan goes back centuries, especially due to territorial disputes. Although China today has an advantage both in population and territorial extension, the two nations have often fought for control in East Asia, which at many times threatened the existence of both. China's advances are one of the reasons why Japan is strengthening its military capabilities, preparing for a possible attack either on its territory or in nearby regions, like Taiwan. The factor that makes this new scenario different from the past is the direct involvement of the United States. Despite economic partnerships, China is considered one of the main rivals of the US today. Both countries have impressive military capabilities and lead in terms of technological and economic innovations, but their opposing political systems make a good relationship between them nearly impossible. While the United States is geographically distant from China, Japan finds itself in a much more vulnerable position, being a neighbor of the Asian power. For this reason, the Japanese were the first to raise suspicions that Beijing might be planning something that would endanger global peace and security. When Russia began its invasion of Ukraine, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida stated that what happens to Ukraine today could happen to East Asia tomorrow. In mid-2022, 90% of Japanese people believed that the country should be ready for an eventual Chinese invasion of Taiwan, fearing that if it occurred, Japan would be the next target. These concerns gained strength when Chinese President Xi Jinping intensified tensions by firing ballistic missiles into Japan's exclusive economic zone and conducting military exercises near Taiwan. This scenario worsened with the recent rapprochement between Taiwan and the United States. In Tokyo and Washington, opinions are divided on how to handle this situation. Some believe that Xi Jinping's stance is too risky for him to go ahead, but many prefer not to rely solely on this, especially given the behavior of the Chinese leader. In addition to military maneuvers, Xi placed a veteran of the war with Vietnam and a former commander of the forces opposed to Taiwan in leadership positions within the Central Military Commission, something comparable to a war council. In response, the Japanese government declared that it would not remain idle if Taiwan were invaded, which means Japan is preparing for this possibility. The plan involves doubling defense spending by 2027, seeking financial and technological support, as Japan has been away from the military sector for a long time. But why doesn't Japan have a formal army? After World War II, the country was prohibited from investing in armed forces, resulting in the creation of the SDF, or Japan Self-Defense Force. At that time, Japan was part of the Axis, an alliance with Germany, Italy, and Russia. Its role was to control the Pacific while Hitler advanced in Europe. However, this strategy failed, especially when Japan was unable to invade Russia in support of Germany, leading to the first major defeat of the Axis. The United States, which had remained neutral until then, was dragged into the war after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. This resulted in a series of battles, many of which took place on Japanese soil, such as the Battle of Okinawa, fought between April and June 1945. Okinawa, an island strategically located in the southeast of Japan, was the scene of intense fighting. The Americans realized that they would need to capture it before advancing into the rest of Japan's territory, leading to a long and bloody battle. Despite limited resources, the Japanese, known for their bravery and kamikaze strategy, fiercely resisted. However, defeat was inevitable, and the island was taken by the Americans. Shortly after, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending the war. Even after the war, American troops remained in Okinawa for decades, with Japan being prohibited from investing in a conventional army. During the Cold War, the United States drew closer to Japan to contain the threat from the Soviet Union, and this alliance persists today, with Japan seeking to modernize its defenses amid new threats from China, especially regarding Taiwan. Today, Japan hosts the largest contingent of U.S. troops in Asia, and the Japanese government has drastically increased its defense investments. By 2027, it is planned that spending will reach 43 trillion yen, about $300 billion. Much of this amount will be allocated to modernizing the armed forces, which have not received significant investments for a long time. Besides financial challenges, Japan also faces internal obstacles, as its constitution, in Article 9, prohibits the use of military force. This pacifist clause is a legal barrier that may require a referendum to be changed, but the government believes there is no time to lose. Meanwhile, resources are being used for military training, the production of armaments, and especially for the development of amphibious vehicles, which would be essential for conflicts in island regions like Taiwan. In the midst of all this, we can only hope that tensions will calm down and that Japan's defensive posture will not become the trigger for the conflicts everyone wants to avoid. Peace, peace.